Hi everyone, we are back with another episode. So this is episode 6, and today we are going to talk about folk tales, and in particular folk tales from the Punjab. And we are going to be focusing on Flora Annie Steele's collected folk tales of the Punjab. Now, Flora Annie Steele, just to give you a brief background, was an English woman and her husband was the chief magistrate of Punjab in the 1800s, and she herself also had an official position. She was the inspector of government-aided schools in undivided Punjab, so before partition, right? Now, also, this is going to be a two-part series because my co-host Puneet has been exploring this book with with a lot of enthusiasm, and so we will be discussing the story aspect of the book today, and then in the next episode we'll take up another aspect, and so. I hope that this is an enjoyable episode for all listeners because folk tales are such an important part of our childhood. We all grow up listening to folk tales. Sometimes our parents narrate folk tales to us or our grandparents. So it captures that happy time of our childhood. Those nice warm memories of childhood should be evoked by folk tales. So that's all I wanted to say, but we can get started by just asking Puneet what drew her to this book? What made you pick it up?
Yeah, hi everyone. So as Sumit said, we are back again and we are specifically discussing this book today. This is the book that we'll be referring to. And because, like you said, Sumit, that folk tales are something that are kind of narrated as bedtime stories or stories that were narrated to us by our grandparents or some elder, maybe parents before the days of the internet and cell phones, before these two things ruined the storytelling for good. As millennials, I think we grew up on a steady diet of stories from our parents and grandparents. And when I came across this book, it was kind of nostalgic for me because I had heard a lot of these stories from, not a lot, but some of these stories from my parents or grandparents or some friend or elder. And the versions that I heard were slightly different from the versions that are recorded in this book. And this book is older. This book was these folktales were collected in the 19th century, as you said, by this English woman, and she got it directly from the people of undivided Punjab. So this book kind of features folktales not only from our side of Punjab but also from the other side, the Pakistani Punjab, now the Pakistani Punjab, and so there is a lot of intermixing of cultures, intermixing different dialects, because Punjabi, as you know, is not just one language. It has so many dialects. And in our part of Punjab in India, we have four or five major dialects like Maja, Malwa, Doaba, and then there are two or three more which I'm not recalling the name of right now. But in Pakistan side of Punjab, there are many more dialects. And since these tales were collected from all of those regions, so the tales reflect with many different dialects, and that was something very interesting to me. Uh, the stories were interesting as well, and the language is interesting too.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. So, did you, when you were going through the book, so I know you talked to me about this a little bit, that it was very interesting to you to go and look at the notes of translation also. Is there any, how did you, so what I'm trying to say is, how did you come across those different dialects in the book? Are there, because this is all translated into English, so what was going on with the dialects?
Right. So the book is in English, uh, but the stories, the tales, when they were collected from the people of Punjab, in the 19th century, all of them, nobody knew English. None of them knew English. They gave their stories in the original language. And then Steele, probably because she was working here and she was so interested in collecting, she was so interested in documenting the culture and everything. So I know that she learned a bit of Punjabi, and she also had the help of local some local people. One of them was named Pandit. I have forgotten the name of him. I will talk about him more in the next episode.
Yeah.
So one of them was a local man who used to be with her and help her collect the stories in the native language, document them, and then those stories were translated and published in this book. They were translated into English. But that she wanted to preserve the local flavor a little bit. And these tales were full of small verses, poems, couplets, which I think are kind of the heart and soul of a folk tale, because they all the stories are full of these little small little couplets and very interesting rhyming lines and short poems, which we will I will read out to you later in the episode. And since I think Steele wanted to preserve those, and so she has given, there is a section called Notes to the Tales at the end of the book, where she has given the original language that these tales were, uh, not the prose, but for the poetry part of it, for the couplets and the poems part, she has given the original poems and the couplets at the end of the book.
Okay,
And
that's
that is how yes, I read that, and that is how I came to know that, okay, this was the original language that she, and I'm very thankful to her that she thought to preserve it and not just let go of the
yeah.
original language. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. For context for listeners, we are both Punjabi, so that's our native language. But you said that these are very different dialects. So did you have trouble understanding anything?
Yes, I did have trouble understanding some of it, but since I am a Punjabi and Punjabi is my native language, when I read them a few times, I could make out most of it. I could put two and two together, and like some of the couplets are in the language that is known as, I think, Saraiki, which is spoken in the Multan part area of Punjab, in which is now in Pakistan. So their language is a, like where we would say jaiye and they would say jasa. So once I made that connection, I could understand most of it.
It's
Yeah.
a bit like learning to read Shakespeare. So when you were first learning to read Shakespeare in school, it's all that dot, hat, and all that. So once you know what those words are, then it's pretty easy, right? So, okay. Oh, that's very interesting. So tell me then, do you have a favorite story from the book?
Yes, I have a favorite story, and I'm going to narrate it now. So the story is called Bopoluchi. Bopoluchi is the name of a young woman who is an orphan. And at the start of the story, Bopoluchi has gone to the village well, and to bring to, at that time there was no piped water, so people had to draw water from the well. She's gone there with her friends, and they're all drawing water, and they're talking amongst themselves. These are young women, and they all dream of marriage and getting a lot of gifts, fine clothes, eating fine food. So they're all discussing their upcoming marriage plans. Okay, so one girl says that my uncle is going to bring a set of red bangles for me, a very fine set, and it's going to be the envy of everyone. Another says, oh, my uncle is going to bring some very fine clothes for me. You'll see, you wouldn't have seen anything like that ever. And so Bopuluchi is an orphan. She doesn't have anyone looking after her, and she doesn't have anyone to give her gifts. Uh, and she feels a bit sad because she knows that there's nobody to give her gifts. But she doesn't want to feel left out of the conversation. So she just boasts, oh, I also have an uncle who is going to come and bring a lot of sweetmeats and fine gifts of clothes and jewelry for me. And so, unknown to these girls, there is a Vanjara, which is a traveling salesman kind of a person who is listening to their conversation. And when he hears Bopoluchi say this, he finds an opportunity there to swindle her. So he dresses up. He's an older man, like he's a middle-aged man. He dresses up as her uncle, and he's a robber actually, kind of a robber. And he has robbed someone, and he has some clothes and some jewelry with him that he has robbed. So he dresses up and poses as her uncle, and he goes to Bopuluchi's house, and he offers her that he tells her that I'm your uncle, and I'm going to get you married off to my son. Come with me. These are your gifts. And Bopuluchi is a little naive, and she wants these things to happen, so she believes him, and she goes away with him. That okay, that she's very happy. And now when she is going, because those days there were no cars, buses or anything, people used to travel either by carts or on foot. So these are poor people, they're traveling on foot. And when they're passing through the jungle, she meets several animals: a jackal, a peacock, a crow, and everybody's uh, trying to warn her. And the poem in, I'm going to say it in Punjabi, then I'll translate it in English. It goes, Bopoluchi aklonguthi thug de naal thuggi gayi, which means Bopoluchi, you are getting robbed. Why can't you see? Where is your brain? But Bopoluchi just ignores everybody and goes with the robber. And when the robber takes her to his home, his mother is there, who is a very old, bald woman. And then she comes to know that, oh, the robber has, tricked me, and he means to marry me himself. And he leaves her at home, and then he goes out somewhere to shop, to bring some things for to prepare for the wedding feast. And meanwhile, his mother looks at Bopoluchi. Bopoluchi has very nice, thick hair, beautiful hair, and the old woman is bald. So she asks her what is the secret of her long, beautiful hair. And Bopoluchi thinks on her toes, and she says, "Oh, that's because my mother used to give my head inside a mortar and pound it with a pestle." So the old woman says, "Can you do that for me?" And she says, "Sure." And she gives the old woman's places the old woman's head in a mortar, and then with all her might she pounds her head in, and the old woman dies. And then she dresses the old woman in her clothes and seats her in the house, and she dresses in the old woman's clothes and escapes. So when the robber comes, he sees that Bopoluchi is sitting there because he thinks it's her. And he talks to her, but she doesn't answer. And he flies into a rage, and he throws something at her head. And but that's his mother who's sitting there, who's already dead. So when she falls down and he sees it's his mother, he thinks, oh, I've killed my mother, and he goes into a rage. So meanwhile, Bopoluchi has reached home, and but she knows that the robber might come after me again. So she arranges a weapon. It's a kind of sickle that they use in farms to cut off wheat and all. So she's keeps the sickle nearby. And sure enough, one day when she's sleeping, the robber comes with three of his friends, and they lift her charpai, her cot, on their shoulders. Four of them, and they take her away into the jungle. But when so she pretends to be asleep and not notice. When they're off their guard, she cuts off their heads. And yeah, she just cuts off their heads. And once they are dead, once the robber is also dead, then she goes to the robber's home because she knows he has treasure there. He has many valuable things. She gathers up all the valuable things, and then she comes back to her village, and then, she lives happily ever after. So
Wow,
that's,
bravo, Bopoluchi. Bravo.
yeah.
That's fantastic. So I want to, that's such a, so I haven't read that story, that particular story. I read a couple of the others that you had asked me to read, but I'll read this one. This is excellent. So I want to say a few things about this. First, that the name is very cute. Bopoluchi is such a cute name, and it sounds very unlike other, rural Punjabi names that we are familiar with.
Okay, so I also don't know, did not know this, but Bopuluchi means a trickster. The word
Okay.
Bopuluchi means a trickster. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So yeah, so I guess because you said this was these book collected in the 1800s, so I guess like language has changed and a lot of, especially because
Yeah.
of partition, I guess things also must have changed because of that. So yeah, so one is a very cute name, and the other is that wow, like I mean, the protagonist of the story is an orphan young girl, and she takes on these three robbers and she has the presence of mind to to tell that story to that robber's mother and found her head and all, so it's all a bit morbid like many folk tales are, but we'll talk
Yeah.
about that in a minute. But also like having a young girl as a protagonist who physically is taking on three men and getting the better of them, like that's great. I don't think I've come across anything like that before. So maybe our ancestors were not as regressive or as I mean maybe they held differing views about women that we just don't know about. So yeah, very interesting. So what is your take on the morbid aspects of folk tales? Like so many folk tales are so morbid. So unfortunately, because I wish that our parents had heard of this book and that we had this book in our childhood, and but we didn't, right? We've just discovered it.
Yeah.
And but in our childhood, we were mostly reading these Western folk tales. So, like all children, we know the story of the of Red Riding Hood, and even Red Riding Hood, which is quite famous. I think everybody knows. That's also very morbid. The wolf is trying to eat the grandma. What are no, the wolf eats the
The wolf
grandma.
eats. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, eats the grandma and then dresses in the grandma's clothes, right? So, and I was reading somewhere many years ago that this tale was even, it used to be even more morbid. And then it was toned down for the consumption of young children. So, what do you think is going on here? Why are they so morbid, these folk tales?
Why are they so morbid? I don't have a clear answer to this question as such, but
Hmm.
yes, they are morbid, and this is not just a phenomenon with English or Western folk tales. It is true of all folk tales, even in the book that we are talking about.
Yeah.
There are quite a few folk tales that are quite morbid, and they are very matter of fact about it. There is no big deal being made about it. Here, I would like to refer to the story which is called Little Ankle Bone. I think you're also aware of this story. So this boy is again an orphan. I think it is a reflection of the attitude of society towards uh, people who don't have many protectors, who don't have anyone to protect them, because orphans don't have any parents, and only parents are the protectors, and nobody else. And so the society treats them in a very cruel manner. So coming to the story of Little Ankle Bone, uh, in Punjabi, I think the character's name is Giteta Ram, so which has been translated to Little Ankle Bone by Steele.
Yeah.
And Little Ankle Bone is an orphan. He's living with his aunt, and the aunt is being a little cruel towards him, and she sends him off to graze her flock of sheep every day. So one day when he's grazing the flock, a wolf comes up to him and asks that I'm hungry and I want to eat you. Either I'll eat you or I'll eat the sheep. So you tell me, who should I eat? And little Ankle Bone is a very obedient boy. So he says, okay, I will come back tomorrow because I have to ask my aunt. I can't tell you on my own. And he goes home and asks the aunt that this is what happened. And the wolf said, who should I eat, you or the sheep? So what answer should I give him? And the aunt says, it should be you, of course. The sheep are very valuable. So next day he goes and he tells the wolf that, look, you can eat me, but don't eat the sheep. And so the wolf is a little moved by this, and he says, okay, can I do something for you after I've eaten you? And little ankle bone says, okay, just take my ankle bone and tie it up on that tree that grows beside that pond. And the wolf does that. He eats him, and he does what he requested. And their little ankle bone hangs for all eternity. And then then something happens, and the ankle bone that is tied to a tree, it falls down. And then uh, a lot of events happen. I'm not going to relate the whole story, but then later, after many years, decades, people can hear the sweet flute that little ankle bone plays at that spot, and all the animals of the forest gather in that spot to hear his sweet music. And so this is quite macabre. It talks of animals eating
Children.
humans,
Yeah.
and the humans also accepting it as no big deal.
Yeah.
And I think the times were very cruel at that time.
Yeah.
Medical science was not so developed. The mortality rate was much more than what it is today. And therefore, people were much more, um, they would accept these things more.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And also like so yeah, you're right, like no medical facilities, and so mortality rates were very high. So actually I read somewhere that people, the average lifespan used to be around 40 years or something before independence.
Yeah.
Uh, or even maybe, yeah, before independence. Now I can't give you the exact time frame because I don't have that statistic in front of me, but it was not very high at all. And then,
Mm.
once we started establishing healthcare facilities and all that, then of course things improved. But not very long ago, people were dying very young.
Yeah.
So that's why maybe they are talking a lot about orphans, orphaned children. And yes, you're
Yeah.
right. Like the time, it was just a very cruel world because, I mean, so we live in times where our problems are like environmental pollution or some things like congestion, traffic, those things. But these people were contending with a lot more, like
Mm.
like
Yeah.
disease and probably animal attacks and all of that. So maybe that's what the tales are depicting, right?
You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating. Okay, so tell me, what did you think about the morality of the stories? Like, is there a morality? Are the tales mostly saying that if you're good, good things will happen to you, that good wins? Is there a morality like that or not?
I don't think so. Because there are a lot of tales. Yes, there are morality tales as well, where the good guy wins. But
Hmm.
there are enough examples of stories where the trickster wins, or the clever character wins, and not the good person or the kind-hearted person necessarily. So there is a story about a woodcutter and a bear. And so there is this old couple who live near the edge of a forest, and the woman is a very mean hag, and she doesn't even give proper enough food to her husband, who is a woodcutter who goes to the jungle and cuts wood for a living and sells that wood. So what she doesn't give him enough food to eat, and he's feeling very hungry and weak. So she asks her to make khichdi for him. She says, okay, I will make khichdi for you, but only if you go to the forest and get a good big bundle of wood, because I want you to work for your meal. You'll not get any free meal. So here I want to add that their neighbor was a very rich farmer who had an orchard of pear trees, and one of the pear trees used to overhang into their garden, and it used to be laden with pears, but um, they could only eat a pear if it fell into their on their side of the garden and not otherwise. So they were always hoping that the pear tree, there would be a dust storm or something, so that some pears fall into their garden. Okay, so the woodcutter goes into the forest, and he starts cutting. He collects a big bundle of wood, and then there's a bear that's passing by, and he asks the woodcutter, "Why do you want so much wood?" Uh, so the so the woodcutter tells him, "Oh, my wife is making khichdi, and she said you get this much wood, only then I will give you khichdi. And what a khichdi she is making! It's yummy, and it's got ghee in it, and it's got spices in it, and oh, you should smell the aroma." Hearing this, the bear's mouth waters, and he says, "Do you think your wife will give me some khichdi if I also bring some wood in?" And he woodcutter says, "Okay, maybe she will give, but you have to, depends on how much wood you can bring in." So they haggle back and forth, and they settle on half a ton of wood, which is described in original languages 40 man, Charlie man. Man is a unit that used to be used earlier. So the bear says, "Okay, I will bring that much. Be sure to save some khichdi for me." And the woodcutter goes home, and he's very happy. He tells his wife, "Oh, I've made such a bargain. The bear will bring this much wood and all." And the old woman is quite a miserly hag, and she's like, "Okay, that's fine, but what if the bear eats all the khichdi and we don't get any?" So they decide, "Okay, before the bear comes, let us eat our fill." So they start filling their plates, and they start eating khichdi, and it's very tasty. So before they know it, the whole pot is empty. Now they say, "Okay, what should we do now, because the bear is going to be here any moment?" And the old woman is very clever, and she's like, "Okay, let's lock up everything, just leave the empty pot here, and let's hide in a cupboard or somewhere. The He will come, he will uh, be in a rage, he'll see the empty pot, but what can he do? He will finally go away, and he will bring the wood, and I don't think he will carry that much wood away, because it is too heavy a bundle." So that is what they do, and that is what happens. The bear comes. He's very disappointed, but that pot still has the smells of the khichdi, so he takes the pot away. He thinks, "Okay, if I can't have the khichdi, I'll at least take this, have the smell." And when he's going out, he sees the pear tree, and he sees these ripe golden pears on the tree, and he says, "Okay, I'll take the pears also." And he starts putting the pears inside the pot. So when he's doing that, and if there were any unripe pears, he thought, "I'll eat the unripe ones. The ripe ones I will take and sell in the market. Then I can buy khichdi for." So this is his plan. So he's eating the unripe pears. So while he's doing that, the old woman who has a cold, and she was holding her sneeze in for quite a long time, she couldn't control anymore, and she goes, "Ah, choo!" And the sound is so loud that the bear gets scared. He thinks that somebody's fired a gun on him, and he drops the pot, and the pears all spill out, and he runs away into the woods. Now the old woman and the woodcutter, her husband, they get the pears, and they've eaten the khichdi also, and they got the wood also. And the poor bear got nothing but stomachache because he ate so many unripe pears. I felt so sorry for the bear.
Oh my, yeah, so do I.
So,
That's, yeah.
so this is a story where the bear is a good and kind and hardworking character, but he gets nothing for his hard work.
Okay. So
So,
that's interesting. So yeah, so folk tales, I feel like they are more, they do a better job of depicting the reality of the world. Like the good guy doesn't always win. Although, do you remember the Russian folk tales that we used to read? Those folk tales were mostly always like there would always be three sons and of the family, and the
hmm.
youngest son, Ivan or Ivan, I don't know how it's pronounced, but Ivan would be the noble one, the good one, the hardworking, the morally upright, courageous fellow. And inevitably, Ivan would win. Like he would get the better end of the deal at the end of the story, right? Is that right?
That's right. And now, like, let me ask you. So, if you see the pattern, there's always three tasks to accomplish, or there are three sons, or
Yeah.
there are three daughters, right? And the youngest, as you said, the youngest is always the kind-hearted and the courageous who gets the task done, or the youngest is always the youngest daughter gets the fairest husband or whatever.
Yeah.
And So what do you think is this pattern of three? Why are there always three tasks or three sons or three daughters or three
Yeah,
chances to do something?
there is this repetitive motif, and it's. You were telling me the other day that this is found in many different parts of the world. That folk tales will use these repetitive motifs, right? So what I can say, so you've all obviously read much more on this subject than I have, but I'll take a stab at it. I think it might be something to do with cementing the idea in the listener's head, because these were mostly tales which were being orally narrated to people. So
Yeah.
it probably it's easier for the people to remember if there is a repetitive motive. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that the idea is that the first time that you go to do a job, you are not familiar with it, and you inevitably, not inevitably, but mostly, you will not be able to accomplish it in the first go. Then, when you fail the first time, so when the elder son fails at a task, the middle one is watching, and he takes notes of what the elder one did wrong, and then he tries not to do, at least not to make the same mistakes, and he tries to accomplish the task, and he generally fares better than the first one, but not completely, because he's also still new at it. So that's the second chance. And then he's almost there but not quite, and he also fails. And then the third one has already seen two people try to accomplish that task, and he is observed. And then the third time when he tries it, he succeeds, because that's the third chance, and
Hmm.
he's learned by watching the first two. So
Mhm.
I think there is that pattern is there.
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. And there's also there are also all these repetitive rhymes and verses that are used in folk tales.
Oh
Um,
yes, yes, yes.
so what's going on with that? Like, is it just a reflection of, say, the creativity of people who are putting together folk tale or narrating it? Like, that's the thing about folk tales, right? That because they get passed down, they used to get passed down orally, and people kept adding elements to the stories while narrating. So, but what are your thoughts on people adding verses to the stories?
Okay, so I will give you an example. There is a particular story that our parents used to narrate to us when we was younger. It's the story of Chidi and Kaan.
Yes.
That's the one I remember most clearly. So there is a chidi and a kaan, that's a sparrow and a crow, who live on the same tree. And every morning they go out to look for food, and in the evening they come back to their nests, their neighbors. So one day they find that the chidi has got some grains of rice, and the kaan has got some grains of pulses. And they decide that why don't we combine our resources. Let's combine the grains, the rice and the pulses, and make khichdi, rather than you eating only rice and I eating only dal. Let's combine it and make a good dish. So let's so khichdi seems to be quite a favorite dish of people
Yeah.
back then,
It's featuring
and
in so many stories.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And they decide to make khichdi, so they get firewood, and they get a pot, and they put the grains in and water, and the khichdi starts bubbling away. So the kaa says, the crow says that I want to go and have a bath first before eating, because I want to feel fresh. I'm very dusty and tired. And he goes away to a nearby pond, where he goes and has a bath, and he takes his sweet time. Meanwhile, the khichdi is ready, and the chidi is very hungry. And she says, "Okay, let me just check how it is coming along." So she removes the lid, and she looks, and such a nice aroma wafts into her nostrils that her mouth starts watering. And then she can't control herself, and she says to herself, "Okay, let me just check the salt. Let me just taste it." So she takes a spoon, and she tastes the khichdi for this, for if to check whether the salt is right or not. and the khichdi is so tasty that she says, okay, let me take one more spoonful. And then she takes one more spoonful, but she can't stop. So she tells herself ki, okay, the kaa will come later. Half of this khichdi is mine, let me eat my share, what is the harm? And she starts eating the khichdi, and before she knows it, she has eaten the whole pot. Okay, she's eaten the crow's share as well. And now she's had her fill, her stomach is full and she's satisfied, but she knows that the crow is going to be mighty angry when he comes back. So what is she to do? Now she goes into a nearby hole in the tree and she hides, that so that the crow may not see her. And now, unknown to her, a little bit of her tail feathers are sticking outside. Now when the crow comes, and he is fully expecting to eat khichdi now, and the pot is empty, and he is angry and he's hungry and disappointed. He's hangry, like they say these days. and,
Yeah, poor
and and
crow.
and he cannot see, and he comes to know what must have happened because he can't see the chidi anywhere nearby. So he looks around and then he sees a bit of her tail feathers sticking out of that hole. And he decides to teach the chidi a lesson. He takes some of that hot burning firewood from the hearth, and he goes and sticks it up the chidi's tail. And now the now the chidi goes, hi hi, mera punja sadya. So punja is
Yeah,
like tail.
tail, yeah.
Goes, hi hi, mera punja sadya. And the and now the crow answers her, the ka answers her. He says, "Kyun bagana papa khada?" So I think papa is the old word for khichdi.
Yeah,
And I remember, like, when our dad used to recite this tale to her, he used to say it in a very sing-song manner,
yeah,
like "Kyun bagana papa khada?" And
yeah.
that was the version we heard. Yeah,
This is such a cute story. So and this is the only story that I also remember that our parents narrated to us, because our parents were not, I mean, they didn't narrate too many stories to us. We mostly
yeah,
were
this is
reading. Our mom used to read stories to us, mostly Enid Blyton and so on. But in terms of folk tales, this is the only one that I can remember. And the funny thing is that this this little piece of verse that "Kyo bigana papa thata," our parents continue to use like to this day. Like if you take a
yes.
bite from somebody's plate or something, that they will say this. Like my dad, our dad will definitely say this. So he enjoys this quite a bit. Yeah.
Yes. So, but the thing is that this is one version of the tale that we heard in the 20th century. When Flora Annie Steel collected it in the 19th century, this was in her book. So this that same story is recorded in this book as well, and the verses in this are very elaborate. The story is very elaborate. So according to the book, the version in this book is that the chidi tells the crow that, oh, your beak is dirty, go and wash your beak. So the
Mm.
crow goes, and he goes to the pond and he says, give me some water, I want to wash my beak. And
Mm.
the pond says that, no, I can't, because my water is dry. So you go to the deer and get a piece of his horn, antlers.
Yeah.
With that antler, you come and dig the pond, and then you can find water. So the crow goes to the deer to ask for antlers. And so the deer sends him further. So he goes to at least 10 or 12 entities to ask for something. So the deer sends him to the grass. He says, because I want grass, go get some grass for me. Then he goes to the grass and he asks, can I take some of your grass? And then the grass sends him further. So it's a huge, very expansive tale. It's not so neat and concise as
Mhm.
we heard it.
So I guess it keeps getting simplified, right? I mean, as it gets passed down, and it's really up to the person who's. It also depends on people's memory. Like, you heard a pretty detailed tale from, let's say, your grandmother or grandfather, but then when you are narrating it to your children, maybe you've forgotten half the things, so you just sort of
Right? Absolutely.
compressed it.
So, also there is a lady, she lives in the US, I think. I don't remember her name. I'll put it in the description. She has also collected some of these folk tales, and she's written a children's book which is illustrated and all. And her version is also, and her book is in both Punjabi and English. So her version is also very nice. She doesn't have this particular tale. She has a tale of there is another tale which is a tale of the sparrow and the peepal tree. So the tale is that the sparrow gets a grain of corn, and when she's about to eat it, she sits on the peepal tree and she's about to eat it. It rolls out of her beak and it falls inside the roots of the peepal tree. And so she wants it back. She goes to the tree and she asks the peepal tree. It's called pipal in Punjabi, and she asks the pipal to give her grain back, but the pipal tree refuses. And then the rhyme that comes is कि पिपल दाना देवे ना चिड़ी बेचारी की करे ठंडा पानी पी मरे. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
this is something that we have heard.
Yes, I
I
was
don't
just going to say,
remember
yeah,
where we've heard it, but we have. And then
yeah,
the chidi goes further to she goes to a fire that is burning nearby. So she asks the fire to burn the tree, pipal tree, so that she can retrieve her grain of corn. But the fire refuses. And now the poem is Ag pippal nu saade na, pippal dana deve na, chidi bichari ki kare, thanda pani pi mare. And
yeah.
then she goes to the water and she tells the water to quench the fire because the fire is not listening to her. But
Yeah.
then the water also refuses. And then so on and so forth goes the rhyme.
Very nice. So yes, I also remember just this part. Like we have heard this in I don't know where we've heard it, but I think our parents were using just this line that
The
"Chidi
chidi
bichari
bichari.
ki kare,
Yeah.
thanda pani pi
Yes.
mare."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's fascinating. So what do you think? So what do you think was going on? Why have we not heard too many folk tales in our childhood? I was talking to my partner, who is also Punjabi, as you know, and I was asking him whether he heard any tales from his parents, and he said no. And he hasn't even heard this one, the khichdi tale, that crow and sparrow. He hasn't heard that one either. I know, and once I had this conversation with another cousin, with one of our cousins, Navjot, who was also on one of our episodes earlier, and she has heard quite a few tales from her grandmother, I think, and those tales were called bata in Punjabi. And they used to say ki
Yes.
bata suna do, sunao, or that's how. So I'm not sure
Bata
that
pondesi.
bata pondesi, yeah, that's right. So I'm not sure that bata is what kind of tales those are. Are those these tales, or do you know, or are they like maybe something that's happened in the village, more like gossip, or what are those?
Look, as far as I remember, I also remember my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, also used to tell us a lot of these small tales that are called bata. The ones that we call bata are basically folk tales only.
Okay.
They could be shortened versions because a lot of Punjab had a tradition of oral storytelling.
Yeah.
So these folk tales were passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
There were no books of folk tales that one could read, and there are no original tales as such. There are multiple versions of the same tale at the same time, because every storyteller who tells the story would edit it or add something to it or delete something from it or tell it in his or her own unique style. Um, so a lot of these folk tales, these folk tales are the ones that were called bata. So I
Hmm.
do not I do not remember, unfortunately, all the tales or the bata that she used to tell us because I was also very young at that time. And after her, I don't think, except for this story of Chidi and Kaan that has survived in our memories, I don't remember any
Hmm.
of the other ones. But
That's
I do
sad.
remember that a lot of them were, they used to deal with princes and princesses, kings and queens, a lot of pariyan that are fairies, or deo that's those demons. So a
Hmm.
lot of supernatural entities used to be
Hmm.
uh, some of the characters in those tales. And
Okay.
as for your partner not having heard many, or even we not remembering much of these, I think um, people with a very strong rural connection seem to have heard more of these folk tales. Somehow it seems that when people moved to uh, when they got urbanized, when they moved to the towns, they got educated, their education was in English. Unfortunately, there was a kind of a post-colonial perception which was deliberately spread by the British, that the British culture and the British language, that is English, is superior, and our own culture and our own language is somehow inferior. And just after independence, like that was the kind of perception that most people in India unfortunately had. There was a kind of a inferiority complex about our own culture and our own language. And I think
Hmm.
that is probably the reason that parents usually, wanted their children that if their children should learn English, even
Hmm.
if they don't learn their own culture or their own language, it doesn't matter much. But English is the language of the ruler and the elite language, and that is what they should study and speak.
Hmm.
So that has done a lot of injustice to our own native languages,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is why I think that we have lost our folk tales somewhere, because those folk tales were never written down or recorded somewhere. They were only passed orally from a person to person. So when people stopped telling those folk tales, they
Right.
got lost.
Yeah, except it's such an irony that, like, I agree with you, what you said about people perceiving English as the sort of like the superior language, at least the lingua franca, and the language in which you can make economic and social progress. So yes, so people are focusing. Certainly in our case, I remember our mom saying this, that, and I'm not blaming her. I'm glad that we got that sort of early introduction to English, because it has certainly helped us in our careers and our lives. So, not to blame her at all, but I do remember that, our mother used to say that you're going to learn Punjabi because that is your native language, your mother tongue. So that's not a problem. But we are going to make sure that both of you get a really good English education, and that your English language skills are really good, because that's what's going to help you get ahead in life. So, you must remember this, that I'm sure you do, that, she used to read those English stories to us, Enid Blyton and all that. So, yeah, so I guess you're
She was
right, like the
right in her
focus, yeah,
she
yeah,
was
yeah.
right in her thinking. She was absolutely correct in that.
Yeah, but it's just sad that, like, both things could not have. It would have been nicer if we had both things, like the folk tales
No,
also,
she was
and
right about, yeah, so she was right about English being the lingua franca and the language that would lead you to success and all of that. And because it's a foreign language, so you need to learn it more. And Punjabi is your mother tongue, so that's not going anywhere. And that was correct. That she was right in that. But I'm talking about the wider perception that the whole society has in English being the elite language, and somebody who's speaking Punjabi being not elite enough, or being
rough around the
illiterate
edges.
or uneducated.
Yeah,
Yeah, that perception, that was wrong.
yeah, and it's still wrong. So I think that that perception is still there. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's that perception that has prevented the recording and the ongoing narration of these stories. We've lost quite a bit. But also, like I was saying, that it's so ironical that the British, the colonizers, they spread, they are responsible for this idea. And it was a woman, an English woman, a colonial person who actually recorded these in the 19th century, you said, right? 1800s. So that's so ironical. In the interest of time, I think I have just one question. Um, is there a story that you feel is relevant for our times, like for contemporary times? So as you are thinking, that like take your time. I was also curious that were there any cultural elements in these stories which surprised you? Like so you we have our own view of Punjabi culture and morality and all of that. So, were you surprised by anything? Did anything jump out at you that, oh, okay, so was this something that was a cultural element or a part of the values or beliefs that felt strange to you?
Yes, so there is a story, and it's a very famous story of a character called Raja Rasalu. If
Hmm.
you've heard of him,
I've
he
heard the
was
name.
the okay. I will just tell you a little bit of context. So, a lot of Punjabis would know the story of Pagat Puran Singh, right? Not Singh, sorry, Pagat Puran,
Yeah.
who was the son of King,
Salvan.
yes, King
King.
Salvan, and his first queen, whose name was Ichra. So he was their son. And then the king goes and marries a younger woman called Luna. I think we talked about Luna in our previous episode. We briefly mentioned her.
Yes.
And yes, so King Salvan has another son by with Luna, and his name is Rasalu, and he later becomes Raja Rasalu. Okay, so that Raja Rasalu, there's a lot of happening. There's a lot happening in between, and then Raja Rasalu is kind of exiled by King Salvan, and he goes out. He's this very brave, bold character, very adventurous. He goes far and wide and travels and has a lot of adventures. So he goes to a kingdom who that is ruled by a king called Raja Sarkap. Okay,
Mhm.
so um, so there he goes, and this Raja Sarkap is a very cruel Raja. So Sarkap basically means, like we say, sar cut, the one who beheads people
Oh, wow.
for no reason. So uh, he goes and he defeats this Raja Sarkap because this guy is supposed to be undefeatable, and a lot of people have lost their lives trying to defeat him. So this Raja Rasalu goes there and he defeats this guy, and he's about to behead him
Mhm.
because that's what he does to others. But then news reaches them that Raja Sarkap's wife has just given birth to a daughter. And hearing that, Raja Rasalu forgives him. He says, "Okay, I cannot deprive a child of his father, and I will pardon you, but you will kind of rule in my name, and you will not do what you were doing earlier. You will be a just king." And he names his daughter, the newborn daughter. He Raja Rasalu names her Kokila,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
he says, okay, this child will grow up for 12 years. I'm going to go. I'll come back after 12 years and then I'll marry her. And that's what he does. He goes away for 12 years and then he comes back and marries that 12-year-old girl. I was like, why?
Oh man.
Why
Okay.
couldn't you find someone who's older and more your age? Why do you have to marry a girl who is born in front of you and you will come
Seriously.
back after 12 years and you'll marry her?
So I was all for Raja Rasalu until that point. I was saying, what a good man. Wow, how nice and all that. And now
It's very
is it,
surprising because let me tell you, let me give you a little more context because when he enters Raja Sarkap's kingdom,
Hmm.
so Raja Sarkap has many wives and many daughters. He has 70 daughters,
Oh
70.
wow. Hmm.
Okay, so these daughters they're already young women, and Raja Rasalu actually falls in love with not, I wouldn't say falls in love, but he kind of flirts with one of them and he promises marriage to her.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then later on, when this newborn girl is there, he forgets about that promise and then goes away. I was like,
Pedo,
what kind of a hero is this?
the hero was a
Pedophile,
pedophile. He's a
pedophile hero.
pedophile. So I
Yeah.
mean, this is yeah. So so this is very instructive in understanding what was going on in society. So I guess it must have been very normal for people to marry
Yeah.
much younger women. We can't call her a woman, child. She was so
Child,
just 12
child,
years
12-year
old.
old. Yeah.
So is this? But yeah, unfortunately, I think it was common in those times to marry like children like 12, 13. You know, when girls start menstruating, I think that the idea was that if they've started menstruating, then they are of childbearing age. Uh, Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
wow.
I think
So
that was also one of the reasons why mortality rates for women and children were so high.
yes, yeah, because modern medicine very conclusively proved that yes, you're menstruating, but that doesn't mean that your body is otherwise ready to bear a child. Okay, Raja Rasalu. We keep coming across many pedophiles in our stories. So we should maybe make an episode on pedophiles. We'll see.
Fine.
It's a very unpleasant subject. Um,
Yeah.
okay. So, did
Hmm.
you think about a story that you think might be relevant to our times?
So the only thing that comes to my mind is again the story of Puran Bhagat and Luna.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly, that's not really actually that's a folk tale, but what I was referring to was Shiv Kumar Batalvi's take on the kissa of Puran Bhagat, and Shiv calls it the kissa of Luna, and that shifts the perspective
Right.
from the story, from Puran Bhagat being the protagonist to Luna being the protagonist, and the point of view being that of Luna that is being told. Uh, but that is another book. That is a book written by Shiv Kumar Batalvi in the 20th century, in 1970s or 67, I think, 1967. That's not really a folktale, but it's a different perspective on a folktale, which is very relevant to today's times, which
Mhm.
is kind of a feminist look on an ages old story.
Right.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fantastic. I was thoroughly entertained. I know you've had a grand time going through the book, and you and I have had many conversations. So next time we'll pick up another aspect, like more technical aspects of the tales, perhaps. And I know you are writing an article about it, so perhaps we'll get into those things a little more.
Yes, I have researched. I am writing a research paper on this book. It is a critical review of the book and some particular aspects of this book, which we can discuss in our next episode. Uh, and yes, that will be another great discussion, hopefully entertaining also.
Yeah. And so I think so. Closing thoughts from my side. I think I'd like to leave listeners with the question that, what is your favorite folk tale that you heard in your childhood? And do you think that there are any sort of uh, what are they called? Morals of the stories that you think might be still relevant to your children, perhaps, or to your own life? So, just something to reflect on. That's my question. What are your closing thoughts, Puneet?
I would like to request our listeners to contribute a folktale if they have one, if there is something that they have heard from their parents or grandparents during childhood. Uh, I would love to hear it because I think I want to collect all these gems of folktales into a book now,
Yeah,
whatever I can retrieve. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I would like to request everybody to let us know if there is a favorite folktale that they have
yeah.
and that they'd like to share.
No, that's fantastic. Great. I hope we get lots of replies. And we'll see you next time. So that's a wrap. Bye.
Bye bye.